Hi everyone, it's Eliza Sidner-Rom. Welcome back to part 8, Riding Forward to Create Connection. This topic is very near and dear to my heart because I think it's the area that we as a country are the weakest in terms of starting young horses, which is now that he is off the lunge line and I can ride him and he is no longer surprised by a human being on his back, I want to begin riding him very forward and into a steady contact. And this is the place that I see the biggest difference in terms of the way that some natural horsemanship trainers would start a young horse or a cowboy would start a young horse, that I want him to begin going into the contact. I really want him to start trusting that he can push into and take a steady contact with both reins. This does not mean that I am using the reins yet to try to make him round. I am not forcing him round ever, but I want him to learn at this stage to go to the bit. So here you see him, we just started warming up, and there is a big truck coming down the hill with a busy squeaking trailer on the back of it that I'm pretty sure he's going to want to look at. So I've just come into McKenna there to let him stop for a moment and look at that trailer. So I want to take a moment and recognize that it's a little scary to ride a horse this green really forward because I don't know yet what he'll do all the time and I don't have very good steering, but I really strongly believe you are safer as a rider if you will ride really forward. If he's a little bit sucked back, he is quite hard for me to steer, but if he's really motoring down the long side, he is much easier for me to steer, and if he'll really go forward, he will not very likely buck. And if he'll really go forward, I can keep his focus better and he will not very likely spook. I'm not saying that it can't happen. Of course it can happen. But I have more control if I will ride really forward, which is sometimes a little bit counterintuitive. The two main excuses that I hear most riders make for not really riding forward are, number one, that they can't get the horse to go this forward. They ask the horse to go forward, but he doesn't understand the leg yet, and they don't want to get into a fight with the horse, so they end up going very underpowered. I would agree that you do not want to get in a fight with the horse. So that's why I still have my ground person to back me up if he either doesn't understand me and I can't get him to go forward, or if he feels my leg and he does not want to go forward because he has to go forward. That's not an option. It's not up for discussion. That's also why I ride at this stage most of the young horses, unless they're very, very sensitive, with a whip, and I use it on the shoulder, and I will really whack them on the shoulder if they don't go forward, and they'll sort of leap forward, and then I try to go with them and say, good, that's great, that's what you need to do, and then they get it. And that's also why at this stage I use my voice a lot. What I most commonly see is people who do not use their voice enough. They have used their voice a lot on the lunge line, and then all of a sudden they get on and they have the mindset that they're in a dressage test and they're not allowed to speak to their horse. So at this stage, I'm talking to him a lot. Good boy, come on. Good boy, that's it. Come on. Something like this to help him to go forward when I need him to go forward. The other common excuse that I hear often is that this is just all too forward and too fast for some riders, and they want to just allow the horse to learn at a slower speed, and then later on, when they understand things better, they'll ride them more forward. But unfortunately, that's not really how this works. If you don't have them going in working gaits from the beginning, they're not going to build the muscle and learn connection. And so there are times that I wish I could explain things to the horse very slowly and at a much slower tempo, and that would be nice and relaxing, but their bodies just don't work that way. They need to push in order to create connection, and they need to push in order to build muscle. And so at this stage, I would rather have them a little bit rushing than a little bit underpowered. My sessions with DW at this stage are short and sweet. I use the old timers rule that a 3-year-old should work 3 days a week, a 4-year-old should work 4 days a week, a 5-year-old can work 5 days a week. So we're working 4 days a week in the ring, and the entire time from getting down to the ring to being done with the ride is never more than 20 maybe 25 minutes if I've lunged him to start with. So, and there will be plenty of days, especially if I just jog him in hand, that the entire ride is maybe 12 minutes. And we go walk, trot, canter each way, and then we walk a little bit at the end, and that's it. So I want it to be really short and sweet, and I want him to build the muscle memory that these are the working gaits that we go. We only go this forward in the trot, we only go this forward in the canter, and we go as forward as possible in the walk. The walk is the hardest gait to go forward in at this point, because the walk technically does not have impulsion. Impulsion is when the horse pushes off the ground into a moment of suspension. So the walk has good energy, and you'll see when we walk here, DW has a good quality walk, but it's the hardest for me to get a nice connection. But I don't work on connection at the walk yet at this stage, unless there is a safety issue. I let him walk on long reins, and I try to follow a lot with my elbow, and I don't try to walk a young horse on contact unless I have to shorten the reins for some emergency reason. And I don't really spend very much time in the walk in the arena. I'm, of course, going to walk enough that I feel comfortable and he feels comfortable before we trot and canter, and I'm going to walk a little bit here at the end, but you're seeing all of my walk work at the end of this ride. It's not very much. I hope that I'll be able to walk him out of the arena quite a lot and let him learn to go on some trail rides and so forth and follow other horses. That's a nice way to work on the quality of the walk. But at this stage, I have to keep bugging him about staying forward enough in the walk, and it's easier for me to get that understanding into him in the trot and the canter. So you'll see I still end the session in the same way. I come down the center line, I come to McKenna, she pats him, we both tell him that he's amazing and wonderful and a superstar, and then I get off at X, and then we walk out politely. And this was a great session for him. He's still learning how to create a little bit of connection like that, but I had some really good moments today. So I hope you'll follow along, and in the next set, I hope you'll be able to see quite a difference already in his understanding of connection.